Reporters in Atlanta, it is 12 noon here, 9 a.m. on the West Coast. I'm Suzanne Malveaux. I want to get you up to speed for this Wednesday, March 21st. Anger over the killing of an unarmed Florida teen is spreading across the country. Almost 1 million people now have signed an online petition demanding the arrest of George Zimmerman. He's the neighborhood watch captain who shot and killed 17-year-old Trayvon Martin. Zimmerman says he acted in self-defense. Tonight, supporters of Martin will gather in New York for what they are calling a Million Hoodie March. Martin was wearing a hoodie when he was gunned down in Sanford, Florida last month. And a Florida congresswoman talked about the case on CNN earlier today.
This is racial profiling, and this is murder.
In just a few minutes, we're going to talk to a guy who knows George Zimmerman. He was a neighborhood watch captain in the same neighborhood. And we are closely following developments in the shooting death of the unarmed Florida teen Trayvon Martin. He was shot and killed by a neighborhood watch captain last month, and police say that George Zimmerman told him that he acted in self-defense. Well, there is anger now spreading across the country over this teenager's death, and there's a massive protest march planned tonight in New York. I want to bring in John Zarella. He's in Sanford, Florida, to talk a little bit about the latest. And John, I understand that there are some young people who showed up at the governor's office, Governor Rick Scott's office, and that the governor is now saying the Florida's stand your ground self-defense law may need to be re-examined. What does he mean?
Yeah, you know, Suzanne, in the wake of this tragic incident, what's happened is that a lot of people are now taking another look at this so-called stand your ground law. In fact, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, which keeps statistics on this, said that last year, 2011, there were 40 cases of, quote, justifiable homicide using this stand your ground law. That's 3 times more than back in 2005 when this law was enacted. So yesterday, on 2 occasions, the governor was asked about this, one time meeting with reporters in his offices, and then another time when students arrived at his office to rally and to call for justice in this case and to get the governor and find out where he stands on all this. And the governor did come out and say, look, I think that if this law is being abused, then yes, we need to take another look at this. And Suzanne, not only the governor said that, but now a local state legislator from down in South Florida has come out and said, we need to start moving to perhaps amend this law. So there is a lot of movement on that issue. Suzanne?
All right, John, thank you. 9/11 calls released in the Trayvon Martin shooting are shedding new light on this case. Some news outlets are reporting that the watch captain, George Zimmerman, could be heard saying what sounded like a racial slur. Well, several editors at CNN have repeatedly listened to this call, and the sound was actually enhanced by one of our top audio engineers. There is no consensus among those who listened about what he actually said. George Zimmerman, he was a self-appointed neighborhood watch captain, and Frank Taafe, he's Zimmerman's neighbor, himself a former watch captain, and he says Zimmerman was confirmed by the Homeowners Association. Well, Taafe is joining us live from Sanford, Florida. First of all, the 911 tapes, we're not quite sure what he said in these tapes. At least CNN cannot confirm it. Is George Zimmerman the kind of guy, you knew him well, who would use racial slurs?
No, Suzanne. First of all, thank you for having me on the show, and I'd like to get this cleared up once and for all. George Zimmerman is a good dude. He's straight up. And that's why I'm front-running for him today, and have been since this incident broke. He's a good dude. He needs to be stood up for, and most guys who are stand-up need to be stood up for, and that's why I'm here.
How do you make sense of this? You say he's a good dude, and yet we've got reports from eyewitnesses and people who explain a situation that looks like he is hunting down this young kid, and that he is killed in cold blood, not in self-defense. How do you explain what we've heard so far?
Susanna, in our neighborhood, we've experienced 8 burglaries, one of them being a daytime burglary. I myself credit George for thwarting a burglary to my own house. 2 weeks before Trayvon Martin got shot, Mr. Zimmerman was able, on his nightly walk, his nightly patrol, noticed a young black male was looking into my house. I had an open window. He called Sanford police, and due to his efforts and his due diligence, my house wasn't burglarized at that point. And that's just about 2 weeks prior to the Trayvon Martin shooting. There's been a heightened sense of anxiety and tension in our neighborhood. I've been there since 2006. I'm one of the original owners, and I've watched this neighborhood go from pristine to sketchy at best.
Do you think this was a racial incident? Do you think he was motivated by race? I mean, does it surprise you that he reacted this way?
Suzanne, let's go on the record here. You know, there's a report that George had a bloody nose and there was blood on his pants. How did he get that? Was that self-inflicted? I challenged Mr. Crump, who sidestepped that question this morning on the Today Show. Why don't you answer the facts in this case, and let's quit sugarcoating this and look at what it is. Mr. Trayvon family, I empathize. I lost a child a little over 3 years ago at 21 years old. So I am a parent who has experienced the loss of a child and how devastating that is. I don't condone the use of the gun. Being a former block captain, we were never instructed to use weapons as lethal as a 9mm. Maximum I would ever use maybe is a pepper spray or a taser, something non-lethal. But no, George, I'm going to go on camera and say George is not a racist.
And you believe that, do you believe that he did the proper thing? You do believe his story then, that this was somehow self-defense? I mean, there are a lot of facts and things that we have to get sorted out, but you're going on record as well as you believe his story. Is that right?
100%.
Is it typical for someone like George Zimmerman? Did he have any training to become the neighborhood watch captain here? And is it typical to be armed?
There was no formalized training.
So what does it take to become a watch captain in your neighborhood?
Essentially volunteered. George volunteered for this position. He wasn't being compensated, and he stepped up to the plate and ensured the safety of all the residents after all these crimes have been perpetrated by young black males. Suzanne, this was a perfect storm. Based on documented prior burglaries and who that group of individuals were that perpetrated these crimes, it just became a tragic, perfect storm where there's a loss of a young man's life. And now another man is on trial. He's already been trialed and convicted in public opinion. Let's let justice work its course. You know, that's why this is America, and we're not in, you know, the Soviet Union in the old days.
And just to wrap this up, Frank, have you spoken to George Zimmerman? You guys you call him a good dude, buddies. Have you guys said anything lately? Has he talked to you?
No, but I'm glad you've given me this this podium. I would like for George to contact me. He has my cell number, and I would like for he and I to come forward and let's clear the air on this, because I think, you know, my voice alone is good, but if I can get him with me and we can go in front of the camera, we can get this resolved, or at least let's hear his real side.
Well, a lot of people do want to hear from Zimmerman, and Frank, we appreciate your coming on and talking about him a bit. And clearly, there is an investigation that is going on at the highest levels, not only the state of Florida, but now the Justice Department getting involved in this case. Thanks again, Frank.